Alright, so we have an amazing fight here. It's Cody Garbrandt versus Rob Font, main event of the May 22nd card. 5 rounds, 2 strikers, 2 guys with knockout power, both quick. Alright, so let's get into the striking. So for Rob Font, he is mostly a boxer. He's got really nice jab. He's got probably one of the best jabs in the UFC in my opinion. And he's got a 6-inch reach advantage here, so I feel like that could play a big part if he does get the range on his jab. And he can start upping the volume with it. But he will feint a lot. He likes to feint. He likes to get his reads early. Lots of feints. A lot of volume on the jab. The jab feints, see how they'll react to the jab, and then he'll pop out the jab, and then go to his next strike from there. And when he does throw combinations, when he does put combinations together, he is very fluid with his combinations, so he'll react to where his opponent is moving, and that's where he's got to look to throw his next punch. So I think he does have quite nice boxing. And for Cody Garbrandt, he's a boxer as well, for sure, primarily. He's definitely more patient now. He's definitely less aggro since the TJ fight, since he's maybe been humbled a little bit. But he has nice hands as well, absolutely. And he probably will have the speed advantage here. I think he'll have the speed advantage over most people in the bantamweight division. Like, he just has really quick hands. And he has been adding some new wrinkles into his game, like the low calf kick in the Assunção fight. That was nice. That was a good look. I think Mark Henry's got him doing that as well now, so that's good. And, Rob Font is pretty heavy on the lead leg, so he can pop the jab out, so I feel like the low calf kick could be a good weapon here for Cody Garbrandt. However, I do got to say that Rob Font is good at getting the leg out of the way when opponents do try and attack his lead leg, and I think him and Calvin Kattar have definitely been working on that, because earlier in their careers, they were just getting that lead leg chopped up, and they've definitely been working on it. Still, still a target for the opponent, but they've definitely been working on the defense of that. And for Cody Garbrandt, he's always throwing combinations, less so in the Assunção fight. He seemed to get away from that a little bit. I think maybe he was just trying to settle into the fight. Maybe, he was on a 3-fight losing streak. He would have lost 4 in a row if he lost that fight, so I think he was just trying to be very cautious, didn't want to get knocked out again. But in that Assunção fight, it was more of a step in 2, a counter 2, but generally he is throwing combinations. And I was talking about Font's jab before, but Cody has a nice jab as well. I think he just doesn't use it enough, but, maybe not the key, maybe not the way in this fight, because Font's jab is so nice, and Font does have the 6-inch reach advantage, so you don't really want to get into a jabbing war with Rob Font, but also, Rob has a really nice counter too, which could be quite harmful to you, because when Cody does throw, his hands don't return to his face immediately, or don't return to his chin immediately. So I'm actually quite interested to see who takes the front foot in this one, because Rob Font, he's much better on the front foot in my opinion. He sets up his power shots well on the front foot. He's generally just much more effective with his hands on the front foot. And when he goes on the back foot, he just gets very defensive and he gets very counter heavy. And I don't think that's the best Rob Font that we can see, is when he's on the back foot. When he's on the front foot, he's putting his combinations together. He's throwing 1-2s, 2-3s, 1-2-1s. He really tries to keep you at the end of his punches. He uses his length, on the front foot, instead of just being very counter heavy. And I think that's, where he's best, honestly. And when he's pressuring, he will take fighters onto the fence, cut the cage off, and then look for combinations as they're circling to the side that he cut the cage off from. So, when he's looking to cut the cage off from the left, for an orthodox fighter, he's looking for the left hook. And vice versa, pretty much. So I think he's much better on the front foot. A few things Cody does on the feet that I think gets him in trouble is that he'll have his hands low in the pocket and he just relies on head movement. So, it's a very high risk, high reward type of striking defense. And we've seen how it's worked in the past. He's come off second best a few times. Also, he can telegraph his right hand a little bit. When he's lowering his level, when he's dipping a little bit, that's when he's trying to load up for the right hook and he's trying to catch you as you're coming in. So, that's when he's not throwing combinations. But, he still telegraphs it a little bit there as well. But when he's throwing it naked, it's a little telegraphed and opponents can see it coming. And that's why they beat him to the punch more often than not. Even though he does have the speed advantage in most fights. So we'll break down the grappling real quick. Both these guys generally like to fight on the feet. So with Cody, he does have a nice reactive double. Rob Font, his takedown defense isn't the best. He does have a decent sprawl in the open, but if you get him near the fence and start chain wrestling him, or, you time a good reactive double on him, then he will go down. And he doesn't have the best get-ups as well. And for Cody, he has good scrambles. Like, he was scrambling really nicely with Cruz. I wasn't expecting that when those two fought. Like, he was scrambling so nice. And I would give him the scramble advantage here. So have these guys win fights. So for Cody Garbrandt, he's got fast hands. He's got power in both hands. He's got good footwork, good cardio, 5-round cardio, good pacing. He's good scrambles, as we just mentioned. And I think when he's best is when he's in that flow state. Like when he's dancing, when he's taunting. I think that's when he's best. When he was in that flow state against Cruz, shit was unreal. And for Rob Font, you know, he's fairly powerful for 135, and he's got good length for the division, nice jab, good strike and defense, and when he does get hurt, he has good recoverability, which, you know, I can't really say the same for Cody Garbrandt. So yeah, that kind of links it up. So how these guys lose fights, so for Cody Garbrandt, I think his chin's severely compromised. I think he probably had a few too many gym wars, maybe at alpha male. Anyways, yeah, it's really delicate. And the striking tendencies that we discussed before, especially the fact that he can be easily goaded into a brawl, and just his willingness to exchange power hands in the pocket, like that's attributable to all of his losses basically, just trading right hands in the pocket. And in my opinion, that didn't look fixed to me. That tendency didn't look fixed to me. It still seems like an ingrained habit that he has. And in the Asunciao fight, they both traded right hands, but Cody just, you know, came up trumps this time. But, you know, he was on the fence, hands low, both swung right hooks. It's the exact same way he got knocked out by Munoz and TJ twice, so I don't know if he's learned his lesson, honestly. And for Rob Font, it's mostly grappling related. You know, his takedown defense isn't great, and when he does get taken down to the mat, he can be pretty easily controlled there. Past the victory for these two. So for both, I think, try and take the front foot, try and get the other backing up. I think both of you guys are more effective on the front foot. And for Cody Garbrandt, look for low calf kicks. Like, you know, Font's heavy on that lead leg. Look to slow him down a bit early. We discussed this a little bit earlier. And for Rob Font, look to counter the kicks with a hard two down the pipe and really try and, you know, test the chin of Cody Garbrandt. But also, when you guys are just kind of staring at each other and just, you know, just staring in the mirror pretty much, as Dominic Cruz would say, at distance, then just look to pop out the jab and just really look to score points at distance, because I can see a lot of periods of inactivity in this fight, so just look to score points where you can. And lastly, for Cody Garbrandt, I think you should mix in your wrestling as well. Like, you have a wrestling background, Division 2, NCAA in college, you've gone for takedowns a few times in the UFC. I think you should look to mix it in here. Like, Font's takedown defense isn't great, and is, you know, he can be easily controlled on the mat, so I think it's good just to mix it in and, you know, just catch him off guard maybe, and, you know, score some points with it. Alright, so how I see the fight going. So, up until the Marlon fight, I thought Font was the type of guy to just kind of shit the bed when he gets a step up in competition. Like, every time he did get a step up, he was dominated by Asunciao, John Lineker, Pedro Munoz. Like, those fights weren't competitive at all. And in my opinion, he looked a little shook in those spots, so I don't know what it is, but I'm still a little skeptical about him and his, you know, how he's going to perform here, just because this is the biggest stage of his career, and I don't know the extent to how washed Marlon Moraes is, but his chin looked pretty shot in that fight. So yeah, I don't know how much weight I'm going to put onto that W, but on paper, yeah, it's a nice win. But, you know, he was losing that fight until he wasn't. But yeah, overall, just such an interesting matchup for this one. Like, just the fact that it's 5 rounds as well adds to that. Even though I don't think it does go the distance, I think someone's getting knocked out for sure. I think 25 minutes favours Font because it gives him more, 10 extra minutes to find Cody's chin, and Cody's chin is delicate. Like, it might be done, and the guy's like 28, so hopefully not, but there's a possibility. However, Cody does have more experience in 5-round fights, but, Font's cardio does seem solid. I do believe Cody will be winning the exchanges with his speed, but his margin for error is just so much smaller than Rob's. Like, I think Cody should just continue to work on his leg kicking game, his wrestling game, because if his game continues to be very boxing centric, then I don't see him scraping enough wins together to make another title run. So I think for longevity, he should really work on other facets of his game. I think leg kicks and reactive double legs could be good weapons for him here, like really good weapons in this fight. And, in this Asunciao fight, he was very patient, like nearly to the extent that he gave away the first 2 rounds. But, they were close rounds. I did edge them to Cody. I thought he was winning the exchanges, and I thought he was winning at distance. but it wasn't the most inspiring performance. Wasn't anywhere near the level of his cruise performance, but hopefully the result was what he desired, and that was the dub. So hopefully his confidence is back after that. That's all he needed, just another dub on his record. Now he's not in, imminent danger of getting cut by the UFC. And I do think he should win this fight as well. Like, if he just doesn't decide to be like a total dunce, then I do favour him over Font. Like, Font is just too one-dimensional. He's too predictable to give Cody problems stylistically. Cody has more ways to win. Even if he's getting touched up on the feet, he could go to the wrestling. The leg kicks will be adding up over time, but I just don't trust him to go those routes. So, yeah, not totally confident in this pick, but I do think Cody should win. If Font wins, then I imagine it would be quite a competitive fight up until that point, and then he either found the kill shot or a really tentative Cody shows up and he barely throws anything, and then Font just like jabs him at distance, like throwing just a bit more volume, and it's quite an unentertaining fight. So that's what I think goes down if Font happens to win. I think those are the two scenarios in which Font does win, and I still think Cody, should be the favourite, and let's go have a look at the betting lines. But I do think the result of this fight is pretty dependent on, which Cody Garbrandt shows up. So yeah, Cody, a slight underdog. I think the line should be reversed, honestly. Even just based on Cody's resume, I think it should be reversed, and the fact that, pretty much any time Rob Font's had a step up in competition, he's got dominated, and he's kind of seemed a little shook to me in that spotlight. But, that Marlon Moraes performance was good. That could be a turning point in his career. I need to see more. And I need to see more from Cody too. I mean, that Suns Out performance was pretty lackluster. So, until the knockout, of course, that was awesome. But, the performance up until that point, pretty lackluster. So, I just want to see where both these guys are at. Probably will stay away from this one unless someone gets to $2.30. And then I'd probably have a look at playing it small, just because I wouldn't play Garbrandt big, just because I don't trust his chin at all. So yeah, I'm pretty keen just to watch this one and probably just pass as a better. But yeah, the prediction is Cody, and I do think he finds a KO. Probably around the 3rd, 4th round. I think he gets the read on Rob Font, because Rob Font's not going to mix it up a whole lot. He's, once you've go through the first 2 rounds, I think you're going to know what Rob Font's going to throw at you, so I think he gets the read by the time the 3rd round starts, and I think he knocks him out in either the 3rd or 4th round.